ICT said that 95% of his profitable traders are trading using this one exact strategy. So in today's video, I'm going to give you all of the actionable steps you need to take to make sure that you're marking up only A+ setups. Not only that, but I'm going to show you real life examples of trades that we've actually taken inside of the VIP group so that you can understand what you're looking for. So first and foremost, we're going to trade this strategy on the S&P 500, US 30, and also NAS 100. Now, these are the pairs that this strategy works best on for me. However, if you want to trade it on other pairs, then feel free to do so. Next, we're only going to be looking for trades on the 5-minute time frame. Nothing else. We don't care about the higher time frame. We're only going to be looking for trades on the 5-minute. And the last thing you need to know is where your Asia session range is. So the Asia session range for me is between the times of midnight and 7 a.m. UK time. So I use this indicator called the Asia session range by Rob Minty, and all it does is simply put this nice blue box around the Asia session range so that I don't have to manually do it myself. Now, if you are starting off brand new with this strategy, then I recommend you mark out all of the Asia session ranges yourself so that you get used to doing it, because if the indicator is wrong, then you're going to end up taking the wrong kind of trades. So let's give you an example of exactly what we're going to look for. So let's say this is midnight and this is 7 a.m. UK time. Now, inside of this time, we don't really care what price has done. We just want to see how it has built up, right? So here we go. The Asia session range has now closed. We now know that this is the highest point that the Asia session range reached, and this is the lowest point that the Asia session range reached. So now we're going to identify the high and the low of the Asia session range, and that is it. We're not going to do anything else. We're simply just going to identify the high and the low. Once we've identified the high and the low, what we're going to wait for is we're going to wait for a sweep of either the high or the low. So we're going to sit on our hands until one or the two happens. So let's say in this example that we sweep the Asia high. Now, once we sweep the Asia high, we're still going to sit and do nothing, and we're going to wait to see how price progresses. So we want to see a series of higher highs and higher lows, and then we want to see a market structure shift where price gives us a lower low, and then we also want this to have some sort of displacement. Once we can see that we've had a market structure shift with displacement, we're going to identify the displacement, and then we're going to take our entry right there after we see a bearish engulfing candle. Once we see all of that, we can safely enter the trade right here, such as this. We're going to put our stops just above that high right there, and we're going to target the opposing liquidity, which in this case would be the Asia lows, right? So nice and simple, we're going to identify the Asia session range, the high, the low, wait for a sweep of either side, wait for a market structure shift with displacement. Then once price taps back into that displacement, we're going to wait for a engulfing candle. Once we get that, we're then going to enter stops above the high and we target the opposing liquidity, and that is all she wrote. So once we've done all of that, we've now got our perfect trade setup. So that was a bullish example. Let's say, for example, price decided to go the opposite way and it took out the lows. Now, once it's taken out the lows, we're going to wait for the exact same thing to happen. We're going to wait for price to give us a series of lower lows and lower highs, and then we want to see a market structure shift. Now, once price gives us that market structure shift, we want to make sure that that market structure shift was caused by displacement. We're going to identify that displacement, wait for price to tap back in, and when we see a bullish engulfing candle out of this zone, we're going to take our entry right there. So we're going to take our entry, boom. We're then going to put our stops below the low, and we're going to target the opposing liquidity, which in this case would be the Asia highs. And that is it. And then all we're going to do is wait for price to hit our take profit. So it's as simple as that. Now let me give you a real life example of a trade that literally played out this morning. So if we come on down and we go to our chart right here, we can see that this is the trade that I'm talking about. So this played out just this morning, and if I get rid of everything, we can now replay and take a look at exactly what happened. So we're going to kick things off by starting off identifying where the Asia session range is. So here we go. We've got midnight UK time and we've got 7 a.m. UK time. So the highest point that Asia session reached was right here at the open. And then the lowest point the Asia session reached was right here just before the Asia session range closed. So now we've identified our high and our low. Once we've done that, we're now simply going to sit on our hands and wait for price to sweep either the high or the low. So up until now, we're not doing anything whatsoever. And now, as we can see right there, we have now swept the low. Guys, if you wanted to get access to my full A to Z trading course, my daily trade setups, my personal trading strategy, daily futures live streams, my entire Discord community, and everything that you need in order to become a consistently profitable trader, then I would highly recommend clicking that link down in the description to join the academy today. Don't waste your money on getting pointless stuff for Christmas, which is not going to benefit you in the long term. I would highly recommend that you join the academy so that you can put money into making yourself a better trader, which will pay you 1,000 times more than buying those pointless pair of shoes that you've wanted, or investing in a PlayStation, which is going to completely waste your time. Invest into something that's going to make you money. Join the academy today. Click the link in the description. It is so cheap that you guys are going to be crazed out by how much value you're going to get. So let's quickly go and identify structure. We've got a lower low, lower high, lower low. So now at this moment in time, we need this to break right here in order to give us a market structure shift. Until that breaks, we're not going to do anything. So price can definitely give us a potential lower low, or it can give us a higher high. We don't know what's going to happen. We're simply just going to sit on our hands and wait. So if I mark this out, this is what needs to break in order for us to get that market structure shift. Now price is still chopping around. So we're still sitting on our hands doing nothing up until now. We get this market structure shift right here. As we can see, price closed right here with a body above this previous lower high. So now this signifies that we have a lower low, lower high, lower low, and then instead of giving us a lower high and a lower low, what we got instead was a higher high. Now this higher high was caused by this displacement right here. So that signifies that we are now going to put in a higher low, and then we're going to get a higher high. And that is the trade setup that we're waiting to capitalize on. So once we've seen all of that happening, we're going to identify that there was this displacement right here. Now, this is the displacement that caused that market structure shift. So once we've identified that, we're now going to drop down to the 1 minute. And once we drop down to the 1 minute, we're going to wait for price to come back and tap into that displacement as it does right there. And we want a bullish engulfing candle. And as we can see, we get this massive engulfing candle right here. So we're going to take our entry just like that. Stops go just below the low, and we target the opposing liquidity, which in this case would be the Asia highs. So once we've done all of that, we're simply going to wait for price to go up and hit our take profit. So if I play price on, we can see that it does chop around for a while, but eventually it goes and hits our take profit. So this trade right here ended up being a 1 to 3.72 risk to reward. So for every $1,000 that you risked, you would have made back $3,720. So it's nice and simple. We're just waiting for a sweep of either side, market structure shift, displacement, bullish engulfing, and we're in this trade. So that was example number 1. Let me take you over to yesterday where we can see example number 2. So here we are on again US 30 just yesterday, the day before today. And if I again get the replay mode out, we can go ahead and do what we just did. So if I now mark out the beginning of the Asia session, which is right here at midnight, and then I mark out 7 in the morning UK time, which is right there, this is our Asia session range. So now if I identify the highest point that Asia session range went to, and then I identify the lowest point that the Asia session range went to, just like that. Now we've got the high and the low. So now what we're going to wait for is a sweep of either side. So we're going to sit on our hands and do nothing until we get this. We get a sweep of the lows right there. So now let's identify structure. It gets a little bit more complicated here because there's a lot more consolidation. However, we can see that this entire leg would be classified as a lower low because this is just one continuous move. We then get a lower high right here. And now this, if we break and close below this low, would end up being our lower low. But that hasn't happened yet because this is just a wick. So we're still waiting. And price eventually gives us a lower low right there. So now this entire move can be classified as a lower low. So once we've identified all of that, again, we're just going to sit on our hands and do nothing because structure is still not valid. So we're still waiting, we're still waiting, we're still waiting. And eventually, right here is where we are waiting for price to give us a market structure shift. So we're still waiting, and eventually we get this massive push to the upside. This gives us our market structure shift. So now we're going to identify our displacement, which caused that market structure shift. And as we can see, this is the displacement that gave us that initial push to the upside, which gave us that market structure shift. So once we've seen that, we now come down to the 1 minute, and we're going to wait for price to come and tap back into that displacement that it does. Right here, we get tapped into that displacement, and we get our bullish engulfing candle, which we are going to wait for. So once we've got that bullish engulfing, we're going to take our entry right there, put stops just below the low. And as always, we're going to target the opposing liquidity, which in this case will end up being the Asia high. So if I move this all the way up here, so now this turns into a 1 to 5 risk to reward. So if I now play this on, we can see that price then smashes straight through our take profit. And this being a 1 to 5 risk to reward, this means that for every $1,000 you risk, you're making back $5,000. So both of these trades again happened literally yesterday, and this trade happened literally today. As we can see, this is in real time. So I highly recommend that you guys go ahead and backtest this strategy to see how it works, what pairs work best for you, and how you can refine it to make it even better. But I can guarantee that if you just go ahead and backtest this and understand exactly how this works and you put it into action, you will be a consistently profitable trader. And as I said, ICT himself said that 95% of traders actually use this strategy himself. So having said all of that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. But on that note, I'll catch you guys on the next video.